welcome back or welcome if you're new. Today it's time for my October wrap up and spoiler alert, my reading month didn't go great, although I did have a couple of good books, but I feel like I had a couple of just kind of poor ones as well, or not even poor but like some mediocre ones, but we will get into it. Also, sorry about the lighting. The lighting is absolutely terrible today and I don't have any proper lighting, so we're just gonna have to deal with it, okay? Anyway, the first book I read went really well and that is The Wildwood by Charles de Lint, and I will say that if you get this as part of the Brian Froud's, is it Froud? Yeah, I think it's Brian Froud's fairy tale collection, then you get these gorgeous illustrations in this as well. So this one doesn't have the illustrations, but I'll put a picture of the book on screen that does. The reason I got this one and not that one though is because that one was £105. I have no idea why, but it was £105, whereas this one I got for £7, so I went with the one without the illustrations. Anyway, this is like I think it's best described as a really gentle fantasy. Like, it does have fae in, but it's nothing like more modern fae fantasies. I'm not sure, what year was this written? This was written in 1994, so yeah, it's not like the sort of more modern fae fantasies and romantasies. It's something very different, and yeah, it is very much a gentle fantasy. I absolutely loved this. I will say it took me a few chapters to get into it, so I think the first 2-3 chapters I wasn't really that hooked at all, and then the more I got to know the main character, the more I just started falling in love with this book. And I will say the writing is just absolutely gorgeous as well, and I just really related to the main character. To me, she comes across as kind of neurodivergent coded. I think part of the reason I did enjoy it is because I had so much in common with her. So the main character's name is Enya, and she has a real need for a lot of alone time, and she has a really vivid, really overactive over imagination. Very much relate to those things. And there's also a man in this called Joe, where there's a sort of bit of a will they won't they thing. I wouldn't call this a romance at all, but there's hints at it. He's like the only person that she says that she can be with and still feel alone, but she doesn't mean that in a bad way. She means that she can still feel comfortable. I just loved that, because honestly that's how I feel about being with my husband. He really is, I think, the only person who I can be with and be that fully comfortable with and be alone with together. It's like he's managed, like the author de Lint has managed to capture that feeling of having really intense emotions and sensory experiences that you just really struggle to process, and always feeling like you are too sensitive for the world. And I think that's how the main character feels, and I think if you feel like that too, you'll probably really relate to it. I will also say there is a very strong analogy in here for climate change and the way that we as people are harming the natural world, and it didn't feel overdone. I thought it was really nicely done, especially when you take into account this was written in 1994, so I don't think it was quite as talked about back then. I just wanted to read you this one quote that I highlighted because it really stuck with me, and it says, "The inner worlds people carry inside themselves weren't necessarily limited to the confines of their own minds. A person's spirituality could encompass everything with which she shared the planet." I really loved that. This felt so closely aligned with a pagan animist view of the world. So yeah, absolutely loved this. It's kind of hard to describe the plot. Like, it does have a plot, but it's not really plot heavy at the same time. She basically discovers the fairies and they start coming more into her world, and at first she thinks it's her imagination because she's got this really overactive imagination, and there's this kind of play on what's real and what's not, and where the things happen in your own head mean that they're actually not real. In a way, it felt like it was saying that it's not that the imagination is false, it's more like the way that different people perceive the world and the way that we perceive our own realities. I don't really know how to sum up the plot more than that. Like I say, it was a very gentle fantasy and just really beautiful. The only thing I struggled with is I didn't check content warnings before I went into this. I don't really know whether to say it because I suppose it could be classed as a mild spoiler as well. Okay, I'll say what it is, but I'm just going to write mild spoiler somewhere on the screen and where you can skip to. Like I say, it is only a mild spoiler. You could definitely see this as more of a content warning. Basically, our main character, Enya, she has had a really horrible pregnancy loss, and she kind of recounts that, and that is something I find very difficult to read about. I've had several myself. A couple of them were particularly traumatic. The same thing kind of happens to Enya, and she's thinking about it, and I actually appreciated the way it was described because sometimes it's kind of glossed over, and it can be incredibly painful and very physically distressing as well as emotionally upsetting. Obviously it was kind of upsetting to read, but not in anything negative about the book. I thought it was really beautifully explored in a way. Enya knew that she was going to be having a little girl, and of course she lost that little girl. I knew I was going to be having a little boy for my firstborn, and yeah, he died in the womb, and obviously it brought back a lot of those really horrible memories. I think I would have found this really hard to read a while ago, and it made me tear up a little bit, but it was also kind of nice to be seen and nice to have it explored at the same time. Anyway, I don't want to end on a downer with it because it is such a gorgeous book overall, so beautifully written, and this was a 5-star read for me. Okay, due to a series of unfortunate events, not the book, it is now a couple of hours later. It is dark out. I'm sorry if the lighting has just gone even worse, but yeah, you know what, it's just one of those things. Life is lifing. Anyway, I'm going to carry on. So next up we have Guards by Terry Pratchett, and this is part of the Discworld series, and I haven't read anything in that world before. The reason I wanted to try this one is because of Mark at the book thing. He talks about the Discworld series a lot. In fact, I think he started his channel to talk about the series, but then it expanded from there, I think. So you start off with the Secret Society, and actually, you know what, that bit did really make me laugh because Terry Pratchett really makes fun of secret societies, and I did appreciate the humour of that. He just shows the kind of absurdity of it, and there's a lot of social commentary in here which I wasn't actually expecting for some reason, and I did really appreciate that, and I found it pretty funny, and I thought the footnotes were funny as well. But yeah, you start off with a secret society, and basically they end up summoning a dragon, and there's a night watch who are kind of hopeless and corrupt and I had a little bit of trouble getting into it, and I kept having to reread bits because I was confused about what was going on. It kind of switched between, I don't know, there was like one narrative and then it went into one where it was sort of in one of the characters' Vimes's head, and he was talking about the city, and because he drinks a lot, he's not like exactly very cohesive, and at first I didn't realise that we'd sort of switched into his perspective, and I got a bit confused, and I ended up having to reread like a whole section of this. This could just be a me problem. It's probably a me problem. Then once I got into it and I started appreciating the characters more, I started to enjoy it a lot more. There's a character in this called Carrot who I just really liked and kind of related to. He's just kind of naive, and he kind of wants to go along with all the rules, and some of it, the way it was set up, it was just kind of funny. But then yeah, other bits of humour just didn't really hit for me, and I kept getting a little bit lost at times. And I think part of that is because there's no chapters in this book. Again, maybe this is a me problem, but also I think there is a reason that we have chapters in books, and this is just one giant chapter, so there was never any natural stopping point, and sometimes it felt as though it was a bit confusing going from scene to scene. But yeah, I also think that obviously because this is part of such a huge series, I get the impression that the more that you read, the more that you understand. And I think there's probably a lot of like little nuggets and clues in here that if I read more of them, I would appreciate more. And I imagine when you put the series all together, that it makes a lot more sense. But I did really like the kind of clever satire in here. There was just some of the more, maybe absurdist humour is a good word for it. That like, I got it, but it's just not really fully for me. And yeah, I don't know if he's going to do this where do the other books have chapters, because honestly, this may very much be a me problem, but I cannot cope with this with this lack of chapters. So I don't know if this is the case for all of his books, but like, I need chapters. So yeah, overall, I feel like this one for me was probably like 3.5, 3.75. I'm probably going to try I want to say the Weird Witches, or this, is that what it's called? I don't know, I have it on my Kindle anyway, and I liked the sound of that one. So unfortunately, after I had one book that I loved and another that I liked, things did go a little bit downhill. Since it was October, I really wanted to read some horror, so I picked up Tales of the Macabre by Newton Webb, and this is an author I'd never read anything by before, and this is actually like a short story collection. So there's 16 short stories in this. I did not read all of them. I only read 4 of the short stories in this, and or was it 5? It was 4 or 5, so under half the book, and it wasn't for me. The type of horror in here wasn't for me. To be fair, I thought one of the short stories was pretty good. Another one I just couldn't really get into. Another one I didn't like at all. One of them, and it was the one that made me put the book down, completely grossed me out. Like, I guess that's a style of horror in itself, and obviously some people have more sensitive dispositions, but it made me feel sick, and I don't like it when books make me feel sick. You know, I have anxiety and chronic illness. I can feel sick all the time as it is. I don't need any help with feeling sick. It really disgusted me, and even worse than that, I have a very vivid imagination, and there were certain images that I could not get out of my head after I read this, and I wish that I could unread one of the stories in this, I really do. But I'm not saying this against the author. I think that I am not the reader for this book, so I'm not going to rate this book, because I think that this book probably does have an audience and it's got some good ratings. I think he is a good horror writer if this is your style of horror. I should really describe the style of horror. It's difficult because it's a short story collection. I would say I prefer more psychological, and this wasn't really psychological, at least not like I say, I only read 4 or 5, not the ones I read. To give you an idea, one of the ones I read was about a glory hole. And unfortunately it went in the direction, I predicted what was going to happen. It was gross, as I expected it to be. And I predicted the ending, and it was gross, and I was like, stop reading, you know what's going to happen. But you know, I wanted to see if it went that way, and it did. And yeah, it wasn't for me, sorry. But I think if you like weird, unsettling, kind of gross horror, maybe you'll like this. It has got some good reviews, and you know, it's just not my thing. So I'm not going to rate it, and we're going to move on. Okay, next up I read a manga, and it was 10 Count by Rihito Takarai. I have mixed feelings about this one. So I did like it, but I had problems with it as well. I will say I related to it straight away. So our main character has OCD, and I'm diagnosed with OCD, and one of the types, like subtypes of OCD that I have is contamination OCD, and that is the subtype of OCD that our main character has. And on the very first page, he's outside with other people, and he thinks about how disgusting it is that he has to breathe the same air as other people, and that he's going to get contaminated. And I've had those thoughts. He couldn't touch anything outside, so there was things he couldn't do, like he couldn't touch the buttons. Like I've had the same issues. I can't touch like the button to cross roads, couldn't get on trains, couldn't get on public transport. He couldn't buy books, like second-hand books, library books, because other people had touched them. I used to be exactly the same. Yeah, it was definitely like his sort of disgust that he felt was very relatable, and the uncleanliness that he felt and the fear he felt. Oh god, I don't know whether to mention this or not. Yeah, okay, sure. He will wash using bleach, and I have done that at points in my life. When I was struggling, and when I was at my most severe, my symptoms were the most severe, I was washing myself with bleach. So and that probably sounds nuts to people, but you know, I was not very well at the time, and I kind of related to him a lot because of that, the feeling that you could just never be clean. However, and look, I knew before going into it that he was going to have a relationship with the therapist, so obviously I was expecting it, but I couldn't help thinking about how dodgy it was. I mean, I'm pretty sure it breaches all codes of ethics. I don't think you're allowed to have a relationship with your therapist, and it very much was sort of building into it in this book, and I don't know, I couldn't get out of my head the inappropriateness of it. I found it really hard to put to the side. Beyond the actual love interest, I also had an issue with the framing of exposure therapy. So it was like the therapist, he brought in exposure therapy, and then they really quickly tried to get him to graduate through it. And if he couldn't, they basically just pushed him to do it, which would backfire. It's like you confirm your anxiety then. You sort of have to take it a little bit more gradually than that in my experience. It's not like I should be expecting it to be fully realistic, I guess, but I think when you're dealing with a serious mental health issue, that there's a certain standard of care that you have to have, and that's no matter what the book is, you know, no matter the genre or whether it's a manga. It's just my opinion, but yeah, so unfortunately that kind of really dampened the experience for me. So I would say, I think I'd give this a 3 out of 5 because I did like it. I thought it did have some good representation, but there were bits of it that just put me off. Speaking of books not going great, I then read Jingle Spells by Emily Grimoire, and where to start with this? Okay, it wasn't bad. It was fine. It was okay. And I want more from my books than okay. So I got this one as an ARC, which was, you know, really nice. But unfortunately, yeah, it just wasn't fully for me. It's basically a cozy Christmas witchy story. There is a plot to it. It's not like one of those no plots, just vibes. So I did appreciate that. But the plot's a little bit all over the place and a few things aren't explained. And honestly, I'm trying to tell you about this and I can't really remember it. So that's not a great sign. As I was reading it, it very much, it really did struggle to hold me there. And as I say, I was a little bit slumpy this month. So yeah, there could be a bit of a me problem as well, but it wasn't really drawing me in, and a few times I nearly put it down, and I kind of put it down for a little bit and then I went back to it. I enjoyed parts of it and then it just went really slow and the pacing was all uneven. It did make me feel a little bit Christmassy, so you know, that was nice. I just didn't really vibe with the characters, and then the romance, it felt a little bit insta-love and there wasn't really any chemistry. I will say there was no spice in it, which I thought was a really nice change for a cozy book, because there's so many cozy books coming out with spice in, which feels like a little bit of a mismatch to me, and this one didn't have it. This was a closed door romance, so that was nice. I will say this is the second in a series, but you don't have to have read the first one first. I think the first one was called Impractical Magic, and the reviews are very mixed on it. They're not that great on Goodreads. The initial reviews are coming in pretty high for this one at the moment, but honestly that quite often happens with ARCs. I think I'm going to do a video on this soon, but I think some people, they rate ARCs artificially high because they want to get more ARCs, or they just feel a bit mean rating them lower. I don't want to go into this here, but I'm going to do a little video on this soon. And yeah, so the ratings are quite good at the moment. I expect that they will drop, and honestly I thought this book was just fine. It was okay. I give it like 2.5 stars, something like that. I'm not going to read anything by the author again though, I don't think, unfortunately. It's just not for me. Next up we had one that I enjoyed again, thankfully, and that was The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle Jenson. And I read this one. I'd actually been reading a few romantasies because I've been trying to find romantasies that don't fall into the sort of common romantasy pitfalls. I was making a video with my friend Alison from Alison Talks Books. We did a collab on romantasy for skeptics. So I've been doing a lot of reading around that, and this is one of the ones that I was reading to see if it could go on that list. And it didn't quite make the list, but I did enjoy it. So this is about two kingdoms separated by this bridge, and our main character, she is going to be married off to the king of this other territory, basically. And naturally, they are enemies, and we all know where it's going. It's obvious that it's enemies to lovers. Now, I will say that I appreciate that they actually did have really good reasons to really, really dislike each other. And then the way that she wrote it, without giving anything away, the reasons that they would then like each other actually were very clear. It wasn't one of those wishy-washy things where it's like, oh, they're okay, they just get over it and now they're together. Like, no, there was things that were misunderstood that were very clearly explained, and I did appreciate that, and I thought there was pretty good world building in this as well. First chapter, it had me hooked. It had a really strong start. I think it dipped off a little bit for me in the middle, but then it picked up again, and overall I did really enjoy it. It actually had some really good political intrigue as well, more than I was expecting, so I really appreciated that. I will say, I thought the chemistry between our two main characters wasn't as strong as I would have liked. I don't know, I wasn't like fully convinced by their romance all of the time. It did take a little bit to, you know, get to that stage. So yeah, I think I would give this one a 3.75, which, you know, I will round up to a 4 for the purposes of making my graphics easier. And I would recommend this one as a good romantasy book if you know, like romantasies. It just wasn't, I don't know, it didn't feel strong enough to make the list on the video that I just mentioned. Next up, I read Horrorstör by Grady Hendrix, and I'd only read one Grady Hendrix book before and I didn't enjoy it. It was the Southern Vampire's Guide to Slaying Vampires, and that's what it's called. Really hated that book. Enjoyed this one more. Didn't love it though. As you can see, it's very IKEA analogy. It's a big corporate furniture store that is not IKEA, but it's very similar to IKEA. Honestly, this is really just an analogy for how sucky it is to work in retail. I mean, look, I've had about 25 jobs, seriously, and I have briefly worked in retail, and I really couldn't stand it. Yeah, it just sucked. People suck, sorry. And yeah, it was too bright, it's too many people, etc. And I related to some of the things in here. Oh my god, I can't stop thinking about now my old work experiences. This is like very big store. I'm terrible in environments like that. I can't actually go into big stores. I have to put headphones on, sunglasses on. It's just too much sensory for me. It makes my head physically buzz and feel horrible. I hate it. Big offices do the same. I had a big office job once, and I think it was like I worked there for a week, and I had a panic attack. Ran outside onto the fire escape. I had a massive panic attack. I couldn't breathe, and recovered there for, you know, it took me about 20 minutes to come out of it. And of course people had then noticed that I'd kind of gone, and by this point I'd just sort of burst into tears on the fire escape due to the overwhelm of the horrible environment. And my boss came out to find me, and you know, like, you have like flight and fight response. I just ran away. I just liked it, and I never went back, and that was the end of that. I didn't work in a big office or big retail store again. Anyway, sorry for that side tangent. It just yeah, if you work in a big office or big retail store, I don't know how you do it. I am in awe of you. Well done for being able to do that. Anyway, let's get back to this. Really weird things start going down in the store, and these strange messages come up, and basically the workers stay there overnight to try and see what's going on, and it kind of unravels from there. I thought it was pretty good. It had pretty good pacing. I was pretty interested in the kind of mystery of what was going on. It wasn't super scary. There were kind of tense moments, like it had some good tension in it. I did find it a little bit confusing at times. Like the plot felt a little bit like jumpy at times. I also didn't care about any of the characters, so I didn't care what happened to anyone in this book, so that wasn't ideal. Overall, I think this was fun, but not super memorable. So I'd give this one a 3.5. which, you know, is much higher than I rated the last Grady Hendrix, and he might just not be the author for me. Although I kind of want to try Final Girl Support Group, but I've heard very mixed things on it, so I don't know, let me know if you think I should try that one or not. So as you can see, fiction wasn't going great for me last month. It was very all over the place. I had quite a few middling to low ratings. So I ended up reading a non-fiction next, and I read How to Break Up With Your Phone by Catherine Price. And I thought this was pretty good. It went into, you know what, some pretty scary explanations of how our phones are affecting us. And it's kind of the things that I think we already know, but it was presented in a really clear way, which I appreciated. And then the second half of the book, after it's terrified you, I mean, honestly, I think that was, yeah, it was a pretty scary horror about what we're doing to our brains with constant phone and screen time. She says, speaking to you from a screen. Anyway, the second half of the book is really teaching you how to break up with your phone, and she makes it clear this isn't like a full breakup, but it is learning to have healthier boundaries with your phone and with technology, and she gives some suggestions which I have not implemented. And that's the problem with self-help books, right? If you don't actually implement the advice, they're not going to help you. But I do want to try and implement some of them. So one of the first suggestions is to have 24 hours where you don't use your phone at all, and that has to be all the family. And I suggested this to my husband, and he is for it as well. So we're going to try that and see how it goes. I feel so reliant on my phone. It's also how I do my business, you know, because I am a business owner. I actually own two businesses, and I run this YouTube channel, and I do a lot of it from my phone. I run my Etsy shop from there. I respond to all my customer emails. I respond to my other emails and I reply to all of my like YouTube comments and things like that. So I use my phone too much, and I kind of say, well, you know, I'm using it for, you know, mostly like worky things, which is true, but I could still be time blocking it better. So it did make me think about how I use my phone. So yeah, I thought this one was pretty good. I'm not going to give it a star rating because I just don't know how to, but I quite liked the book. I thought it was worth a read. Other than that, I read another couple of non-fiction books, which I'm not going to review individually because I feel like out of everyone watching, about 2 people, if that, would have any interest in them. It really depends if you're really into plants. So I read 2 plant books. I'll pop the covers on screen. But yeah, they're all about plants and plant parenthood. I've been really focused, like fixated on plants at the moment. I'm just really into it. I'm making plant journals about all of my plants. I've got like 20 house plants I'm propagating. I'm super into it. My husband's like, oh no, she's got a new obsession. You know, it's what I do. You know, this month Chess is hyperfixated on plants, so I've been reading plant books, which yeah, I'm not going to review. I think I probably lost everyone already with this little ramble, actually. That was everything that I read in October, and I have to tell you, I think because I read some books that just didn't really gel with me in October, I haven't been picking up my books. The way it's going, we're going to get to the November wrap up and it's going to be like the 0 books that I read in November. Because I actually haven't faced the 10th and I haven't finished a book yet. So yeah, hopefully my reading picks up soon. I don't want to like push myself with it. I think it's weird, like having this channel is actually making me read less, just because obviously it takes a lot of time to plan videos and film and editing. Like the editing takes so much time, so I'm reading a little bit less, and then at the same time I've created this sort of pressure on myself that like I should be reading now when it's actually just a really enjoyable hobby for me, and I don't want to put that pressure on myself. So what I'm saying is I'm not going to force myself to read. When I feel the urge to pick up my next fiction book, I'll do it, but I'm not going to make myself because I inevitably won't enjoy it. But I'm hoping it happens soon, because otherwise, I'm not joking, I'm going to have a wrap up with 0 books next month at this rate. Anyway, I'm rambling, so I'm going to go now. I already know that I'm going to have to cut out a load of this, and when I'm editing, I'm going to be just so annoyed with myself. Anyway, let me know if you've read any of the books that I read in October and what you thought of them, what you've been reading, and I will chat to you in the comments and see you soon. Bye!